And we're recording. Hey, welcome everybody to the Tuesday morning edition of the Good Morning Wake Up Show. And you're in for a treat. We've got a really great guest with us today. It's Angela Howell, who's a former Fortune 500 corporate sales hitter, a network marketing 2%er, and a longtime eating disorder survivor and advocate. If a devastating work injury hadn't ended her award-winning 12-year sales career and put her on a new path, total burnout would have completed the task. Long before her injury, Angela knew she was supposed to leave her comfort zone and do something else, but she didn't know what it was or how to figure it out. Angela ignored her inner nudges and worked until she could barely lift her arms to brush her teeth, much less do her job. Facing disability and what would become a decade of surgeries and ongoing physical therapy, Angela began herself to ask some really important questions. What were her strengths? What was she passionate about? Since she had to choose a new career path, Angela made sure passion was her top priority after learning firsthand that money alone was not enough. With the help of many books, seminars, recovery groups, and creative circles, as well as ongoing spiritual development and healing, Angela is finally walking her own true path. She successfully reinvented herself as a photographer, then a speaker, an author, a transformation coach, and an abstract artist. She's a heartfelt communicator who personally knows how to triumph in the midst of adversity, and she joins us from her home office in Nashville, Tennessee. Welcome, Angela.
Thank you so much, David. I'm honored to be here with you today. Looking forward to our chat.
And the feeling's mutual. We had a pre-chat and we kind of connected right away. And I'm going to speak to Mike later on. So everything's good. So I guess I want to start with, like that inner voice. What was that inner voice that drove you in your career, but then work like heck to stop you by having an eating disorder? What was going on inside?
It's so funny because I think we have a couple of voices in our head.
Yeah.
I've named some of mine. Producer, that's the one that pushes me to create output. I think I have a sabotager. That's kind of think of angry teenager throwing a fit that just wants to, do nothing and rebel. There's also, perhaps the scared kind of persona that is a little hesitant and needs encouragement. But I guess to kind of answer all those questions in the different voices, I grew up really poor. And so I was very driven from a very early age to make as much money as I could. I thought for sure that would be the answer to all of life's problems that I had seen as a child. And, I made money and had a good house, had a great, husband, cars, all that stuff, awards, trips. And when I figured out that I was still not happy, something was still missing, the other voices were, this isn't what you're supposed to do. And I listened briefly when 9/11 hit, and I retired I was in pharmaceutical sales at the time. But life circumstances changed 2 years later, and I needed to make money. And rather than banking on my dreams, which I really didn't have a whole lot identified, I just went back to what was really safe, and that was corporate sales. And then my body broke down. I wasn't going to be able to work anymore. And that is a scary notion. And that's also a beautiful thing. And that's kind of where we find ourselves, where many options have been stripped away. Mm-hmm. And we're left with ourselves, and we get to ask questions. And I love the idea that the right question can change everything. And so I started asking myself some of the questions you mentioned. What am I good at? What do I like to do? What do other people tell me I'm good at? What would I do for free? And none of those things came to be. Actually, the photographer thing was the first thing that happened. But I think when you ask questions, you open yourself up. So, and you asked about the inner voice. I love to say that we have all the answers we'll ever need already inside us, if we'll take the time to listen and be open to things. Some of the answers coming that are not what we expected at all. So I am on this path of happy accidents. I even recently did a painting that I called Happy Accidents. To me, those are the best paths oftentimes, where it's not anything we planned, but by taking a step and then another step and another step, things unfold that are actually pretty good. So I hope that answered the question about the inner voice and a couple of inner voices.
Yeah. So you mentioned a few. There's an old Cherokee story about a Cherokee grandfather. He's telling his grandson a story, and it's a fight going on inside me, he said. It's a terrible fight between two wolves. One is evil, he's angry, and he's envious, and he's greedy. Arrogance, resentment, lies, and ego, he continued. The other is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The wolves are fighting to the death. Wide-eyed, the boy asked his grandfather, which wolf will win? And the Cherokee grandfather simply replied, the one you feed. So which wolf were you feeding more at that time of this mass change and awakening, I guess, for you? And why? What was that voice inside you wanting you, or from wanting from you, or selling you at that time?
I love that. I love that story. I think that's just so true. There was a voice that I knew that I wasn't supposed to be doing corporate sales anymore. The problem was I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. When during that, after 9/11 hit, and I had this situation where I could be a stay-at-home mom, I really had the desire to stay home. My son was 5 at the time. That was totally not like me. I mean, 9/11 was a total shift for me. I did stay-at-home type things. I was a camp counselor for my son, room mom, all that kind of thing. But then when life changed, I still hadn't really figured out what I thought I was supposed to be doing. So I just went back to what was safe and comfortable. And I like to joke that the first time was like my, I was going to say higher power. I purposely, I am a Christian, but I like to respect people and not, unless I'm invited to make something overly religious, not bring a lot of that into that. But I felt like I was being guided to do something else. And then when I had to have some income, rather than pressing that, I went right back to what was safe. And not that that's wrong for everybody, but I knew it was wrong for me. And then a couple of months later, my body broke down. So I kind of joked that, God said, we're going to do this the easy way or the hard way. And the first time was the easy way. And now, now it's going to be the hard way. And, did end up in a lot of surgeries and physical therapy and that sort of stuff. But I'm hard-headed. I needed the other options removed in order to ask the questions of what am I really here for? And I've developed a coaching program called A Life Worth Having that, as a student of personal development for, many, many decades,
yeah, is
how I've got to where I am today. And how like you read a book, there might be one thing that you take away, the really a nugget you're going to implement. The whole book was good, but one thing you're going to implement, or you go to a sales seminar, or you hear a webinar or something like that, and there's a tip. And so I just followed all these things that I had learned to explore what I thought I was supposed to do. And like I said, the only thing that did happen was become a speaker. And I'd already been speaking and telling my eating disorder recovery story in the recovery setting, but photographer, that was not on my list. I really didn't plan to write a book. I knew that I would write a memoir at some point, but I certainly wasn't looking to write a daily meditation book. That wasn't on the agenda. Mm-hmm. So as far as what I was feeding, I didn't feed the inner voice until I really didn't have a choice.
Did you freak out when you didn't have a choice? And what was it that caused sort of the physical pain? Yeah. So first of all, how did you respond? when you found out you didn't have a choice, and then what caused that physical disability?
Oh, it's such a tricky question. It took doctors 3 years to figure that out. All I knew is I was in terrible pain. My arms didn't work like they needed to. And the company, after my first leave of absence, and I got all the way better, and then I went back to work and it came back. I was seeing orthopedics, chiropractics, neurologists. Nobody knew what was going on, but they did say they suspected it would be chronic. And when I went back to work, the big pharma company clearly was trying to fire me. And suddenly, my work performance wasn't up to par. I was being written up for random things. And I just got the message loud and clear: keep your mouth shut, keep your nose down, do your job. And I did that until I really could not. I would lean against the wall to try to brush my teeth. And so finally I was telling, a doctor about it, another doctor about the work situation. They're like, you've got to go to a pain doctor. They will understand. And so the pain doctor immediately took me off work and said it was repetitive motion syndrome, So for 3 years, I lived in extreme pain and going from doctor to doctor because they just wanted to give me pain meds and injections. And I knew something was wrong. And I wasn't going to just Band-Aid it with pain pills and injections. And finally, someone asked about my shoulders. No one had looked at my shoulders because my pain presented in my neck and my back. And sure enough, both shoulders had ripped. So there was no stabilization happening in my upper back shoulder blade kind of region. So my back and my neck were compensating.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, after 3 years of not using my arms properly, my body learned a new way to function. And so I still wrestle with, I don't wrestle with it anymore. That's not the right word. I accept that I don't have as much motion. I mean, I do, but not like most people. I can do everything once. That's kind of the thing. But if I have to live with my wings kind of in this setting as opposed to far out from my body, there's just not a lot of strength and stability as I would like to be. Right. But, I'm grateful. There's so many things I can do. And it's almost like I think I had to be forced into this situation. It's taught me a lot of humility. I grew up believing that, I was always athletic and working out, bodybuilding, and falsely believed my outer appearance and my physical strength was part of my identity and part of my worth. So this has been a journey of realizing that the true worth is inside me and it's not wrapped up in the outer package. And, and then as you continue to click off birthdays, things in my body settle, and I'm further having to remember I'm not this shell. This outer casing is a fraction of who I am as a human being. And it's been a great lesson to learn.
Wow. And I think we all have time to kind of look at that and contemplate that right now, in this current, COVID-19 protocol that we're all going through. Were you happy then in the sales work? Because it sounded like, you were ready to leave anyway, but your body gave out first.
Yes. I love sales. My dad was a salesperson. And so as a young kid, we would always win the sales contest for, Bluebirds, Campfire Girls, whatever fundraiser my school was having. He trained me from the bushes. You'll like this because I know, you're into business and sales too. He would have, the cute little blonde girl go up to the door and selling candy bars, would you like to buy a candy bar? Oh, sure. How many people live here? And I wasn't going to let them go with just one. They were going to buy a candy bar for everybody there. And so the suggestive selling, I love the game of sales, the sport of selling. I love the sport of marketing, just the essence of it. And I did retail for 10 years, working through high school and college, and then was in outside sales, copiers, and then something related to banking, and then pharmaceutical sales. And I loved the creativity that one could bring to the sales field. And yet I knew that there was more I was supposed to be doing. And so one thing I've had to learn is just because I'm good at something doesn't mean that's what's in front of me to do. And maybe something is there for a season. You know, my sales experience helps me greatly now as an artist. And we talked a little bit about that.
Mm.
A lot of artists don't have business backgrounds. They embraced an artistic vein from the very beginning. I didn't know I had any artist abilities. But as far as marketing my book and marketing my art, cold calling is, you know, I could do that in my sleep. I mean, I told you my first job, 20 cold calls a day and 50 telemarketing calls a day. I got really used to rejection and knowing that sales is a numbers game, and also being fearless. You know, what's the worst they can do? Say no. I'll still eat tonight, you know? And so I did absolutely love it. And it was time to move on. I look at all of my experiences, even photography and learning graphic design during that window of when I was having all these surgeries and all this, you know, rehabilitation. I wanted something to do, and photography became the thing. And I tend to turn hobbies into business, just seems to happen. But all of those things collectively help me today as an author, a speaker, and an artist.
Yeah.
So
A lot of people are probably at home. They're not working right now for obvious reasons. And now maybe is a good time for them to contemplate, you know, maybe I should do the life change. Maybe I should do what I'm really passionate about finally, right? Maybe I don't really want to go back to work again after this is over. You know, I personally had a foot and toe bone infection about a year and a half ago. And, you know, I knew in my heart too, that if I didn't make changes, that my life end would be nearer than I would have liked. So what thoughts came to you when you faced that injury and burnout? Like what thoughts came to you when you were facing that?
oh, that there had to be more to life than this grind. By that time, there was a lot of government regulations that were happening with pharmaceutical sales.
Sure.
The job was less fun. It used to be more of a sales job where my job was to entertain the doctors, the nurses, and you know, it was fun. And then it became more and more regimented, and the industry just shifted. And anybody that, you know, doctors, nurses, you know, medical reps know what I'm talking about. It shifted, and it really, I felt like a delivery person. I didn't get to use my skill. I didn't get to use my mind. Basically, doctors just wanted to sign for samples at that point. And I hated my job. I mean, I did. I hated getting up. I hated the grind. And, but I just didn't know what else to do. All I ever wanted was to make money. I never thought about anything else. I'll tell you a joke though. It's actually for real, but it's funny. The one thing I wanted to be growing up was a solid gold dancer. But we were poor. We didn't have money for dance lessons. I could have been such a great dancer. And I do still dance, but not like I wanted, not like that, not like I wanted to. But other than that, I had no passion for anything but making money to buy security. I was going to buy my secure life. So, you know, the thoughts were there to leave, but I didn't know what to leave and go do. So, you know, it took getting really uncomfortable before I finally, you know, asked myself some questions of what would I do. And then again, like the photography was the first thing that came about, and that was a total accident. But I ended up doing that professionally for 9 years.
It's amazing. At that time, you're getting all kinds of messages. So one was new work, but what was the body saying too at that time? What was the message it was saying?
That's such a good question. My body was just saying, I'm just tired. And that brings me back to your story about the wolves. Because of the fighting wolves, there was so much tiredness. I had driven myself I was the worst boss, I was the worst boss you could imagine. I mean, I was working 50 hours a week at 15, maintaining a 4.0 or better grade point average, in school, pursuing this thing of security and money. And my body, even before my body fell apart, probably late 20s, I'm just so tired. I just feel like, in the inner dialogue, you've been driving me and driving me. I'm just so tired. So I think there was some defiance also on a physical level of, I'm not doing that anymore. And it got to be where I couldn't make myself make my sales calls. So, this is true burnout, where it's just like, oh my gosh, I just have to get in the car. I just need to go see this many people. And it's just like, I can't do it. I just can't do it. I'm just tired on every level.
What message was your soul or your internal GPS telling you at that time?
Well, that this has run its course. This has run its course, and it is time to find the next road, whatever that is. It's time to find it. It's time to quit going down this path. This is a dead end.
Yeah. You felt emptiness too. What was that about? I mean, we all experienced that, but what was that like for you, feeling that emptiness inside?
I think one of the things that we want the most in this world is to feel significant, and to feel that we are making a contribution to the whole that fulfills us along the way. There was none of that happening. I was going through motions so that a paycheck could go into my bank account every week. And that is not a fulfilling feeling. That is, for me, it was an empty feeling. So I think our soul craves to do something that matters and that lights us up. That, gosh, I used to play softball. Did you ever play softball or baseball or anything like that? When you've hit the ball
back over here.
What's that?
You see the calendar over there?
I do see it. Yeah, that's awesome. My dad actually played AAA ball, so he never got a son that embraced baseball, but I sure embraced softball. But when you hit the bat just right, I mean, the way that it cracks, you had just nailed it. And I think we need that feeling in our life when we are just on the mark for, whatever we're bringing to the world. It's a value to the world, but the delivery of it also fills us in a way that nothing else can. And that's what was missing for me.
What message was God telling you at that time?
At that point, I was probably still in what I call my God-hating years. I grew up with a fair amount of religious and spiritual abuse, where it was just over the top and, shoved down our throats. And I have, 4 siblings, and they're either God haters or atheists. And I've managed through the recovery world to find peace with all of that. So I wasn't really tuned into that much. And that's why you might hear me just unconsciously say higher power, because I used that phrase for so many years. And then fortunately, through the 12-step program, I was able to define a God of my own understanding, which is the second step in the 12-step world, and later come to believe that is the God that I choose to serve. And so I wasn't tuned into the God that I know now, but the God that I would have called then, was my intuition, was the one telling me, this isn't where you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be doing something else. It's just, it didn't tell me what.
I know. I can relate to that a little bit. So what got, like you mentioned 12-step program, that's for AA. You didn't have a drinking issue. You had, was it the anorexia you were following, or what
Yes.
What led you to that?
Yes, there's a program called OA, which is Overeaters Anonymous, which
Right.
the name is a little bit misleading because I was in there for anorexia and bulimia, but basically all eating disorder people, sufferers, have a lot of the same makeup and in my opinion, as an alcoholic or a drug addict, that not enoughness or less than syndrome, because of, dynamics of how we grew up. So I plugged into that, as a teenager when I was trying to get well from my eating disorder. And it's been, I think the 12-step program. So there's so many, there's Gamblers Anonymous, there's Debtors Anonymous. I mean, there's just so many out there. If you have an ism, there's going to be, a meeting for it. The 12-step program is a spiritual program that I think could benefit every human on the earth, regardless. We all have isms. They may not be big enough to be pointed at, like alcoholism or drug addiction, or an eating disorder, to the point where it's obvious to everyone you've got some kind of a problem. There's so many of us that skate kind of in the middle, but we have things that could be helped by working a 12-step program.
So what was your inner dialogue telling you, like, during the time of, the eating disorder? What was that? What was screaming at you, and how did you overcome that? Because it's such a, it affects all of us. We're all not good enough, or we're all not enough, or, we're all like, we all feel like insignificant at certain points, right? Especially if you're kind of you're a hamster on the wheel, just chasing the paycheck and doing the job and going to work, and it's not that home run, crack of the bat thing. So yeah, what was the dialogue, and then how did that program help you get off of that sort of programming that you weren't enough?
I think it's a lifelong journey. I want to say that. I think we all have, a degree of a twisted way of seeing ourselves. You could ask a friend what they felt, are our qualities, and they're going to be able to come up with more things than we are able to come up with. For me, the eating disorder became a way to distract myself from the things that were going on. I started practicing my eating disorder at 13, but I would say by 9, I was already primed for that. Wow. Like any addiction or compulsion, it's just a distraction. It's a way to relieve the pain. Unfortunately, if you go too far down the road with that, then that in itself is causing pain. And, I was to the point, where practicing my eating disorder consumed my life. It was no longer the pain reliever. It was the pain inducer. I mean, it just, perpetuated feelings of shame and worthlessness, because I couldn't stop, these unhealthy behaviors. And finally, I went to my first treatment center. So, an eating disorder is really tough to break out of, much like any other addiction. And the average person will recover 7 years after they first start trying. And I'm right on the mark. My third treatment center, my third hospitalization was the 7th year of trying. So I practiced, started at 13, and then I started trying to get better at 17. And, finally got better around 23, 24. I just got to a point where I was done. And I think a lot of people want, a lot of us are in relationship, or we have a friend who may be struggling with an addiction or a compulsion, a process behavior, whatever it is. And we want them to just stop. I'll never forget a cousin telling me, "What's wrong with you? Just stop." Well, I wish I could. It's almost like, you skate this line, and then once you've crossed over, the addiction has you by the throat. You're not, it's a mental disease for a reason. You're not thinking straight. Otherwise you would just stop. Nobody wants to lose their family or hurt themselves with an addiction or a compulsion, but it happens. And so I just got to the place where I was done. And, I also had all the help. I had another hospitalization and introduction to the 12 steps, and doctor, dietitian, therapist, all the team to help me, transition permanently that time. And it worked. And So because the eating disorder symptoms are gone, it doesn't mean that, I'm completely well and I'll never have those bends, those tendencies. I think, once they say once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic, or once a fill in the blank, I would say that's true. We all are constantly on a journey of becoming a better human. And the things that drove me to an eating disorder in the first place, I can't change my past. Those things are still there. And I have to work on my mind constantly to overcome the tendencies that I developed very early on, the what you talked about, less than, not enoughness, whatever it is. So it's an ongoing battle, or it's an ongoing journey. And thankfully I don't struggle with the eating disorder pieces of it near as much anymore. I mean, being in quarantine like this, it would be so easy. I love sugar. It would be so easy to medicate with chocolate, 24/7, but medicating to me today is not okay. There was a time where I thought to myself, if I could binge on air and it would give me the sense of, whatever that a binge might do, is that okay? No, I don't care if it's calorie free, sugar free, carb free. I don't care. That's not the point. The intent that is important to me what's important to me is the intent behind it. And if I am trying to numb myself rather than nurture the spirit that's obviously wanting my attention, then I'm still missing it. And so I look at physical cravings or sugar cravings or whatever as a cue. Am I feeling anxious? Am I feeling bored? Am I feeling fearful? What is driving that? Because if I don't look at that, I could eat this, but this is not going away.
Mm-mm.
And I have found that if I look at what is driving my unrest right now, I can soothe that part of me, that part of my spirit. And, that's where, I use mindfulness, prayer, meditation, physical movement, those types of things versus a substance or a process to take me out of the moment. And basically what I call medicate and numb my feelings. And that's just not okay for me today. Not that I do it perfectly. There are certainly days where I'm like, to heck with all that mindfulness stuff, just, give me some chocolate. But as a rule, that's not my choice.
You chose to love yourself, it sounds like. So what did you have to unpack in your life in order to heal and to love yourself?
Well, and I confessed to you the other day when we were talking about, you asked me if I was tired and am I allowing myself to take naps. So self-love, I think, is also a journey that we take and we never arrive. And, but more and more things fall under the umbrella of self-love for me. And being very intentional with my eating is one of those things. I still struggle with getting enough rest. There's still that driver in me that wants to do instead of allowing myself to just be and know that I have all the worth that I will ever need just as the human that I am. So anyway, I hope that answered it a little bit.
Yeah. I think, right now we're all being forced to unpack our lives now and maybe lighten the load. If it wasn't working, it's time to let go with love and move forward. And it's not that easy because that load may include family, friends, food, drink, passions, stuff. What's your take on that?
I love that. There's one of the daily meditations in my book. I remember it says something about, set the backpack down for a minute, be where you are, appreciate, have gratitude. And then as you pick your backpack back up, keep it light so that you have room, for more of the good things life has to offer instead of carrying this heavy backpack that's just weighted down with all this other stuff that, keeps you from, fully living life. So I think this is an unprecedented time to decide what we want to put in our backpack when, stay-at-home orders are lifted and when we can go back to some new version of normal. This is just an unprecedented opportunity to really evaluate and be intentional with our lives, oh my gosh, we would be missing an opportunity if we're not journaling. Journaling to me unlocks, I've said already, I think that we have all the answers we have within us. Sometimes though, we can't find the key to get in there. And that was my problem for a decade or more of, I know that this isn't working, but I don't know what to do. But journaling for me, getting all these thoughts out of your head onto paper is like solving a puzzle. If I was to keep a 500-piece puzzle in my head, I couldn't lay it out flat and actually work the puzzle. And so I'm going to stay, lost and confused. And so journaling for me is laying the pieces out of the puzzle on paper, and then you start connecting the dots. And so I would encourage everybody listening to this or watching to explore, what am I learning right now in this, stay-at-home type situation? What have I lost? What do I really miss? And what is my soul really trying to tell me through all this? What is the lesson? And another great way to approach it is to have a dialogue, almost like you're interviewing yourself. Sometimes when you shift it to third person and instead of what did I learn, it's like, what did you learn from this? And then let yourself answer using, the pen or typing, however you're going to do it, and look for those answers, because we have the opportunity to not go back. If we didn't love the life that we were living before we all self-isolated, we've got a really great opportunity to ask those questions and perhaps do something different.
What if it's part of your life? It's like, it's a relationship you want to let go of. And then, fighting back maybe the guilt of doing that.
Yeah, that's a tough one. But, like I mentioned relationships quite a lot in the book too. I've got a few things in there. If you were going to hold on to Miss Okay, Mrs. Right is never going to come into your world. You have to be willing to let go of Mrs. Okay or Mr. Okay if you really want Mr. Okay or Mrs. Okay, Mr. Wonderful or Mrs. Wonderful to come into your life. That saying, the time in the hallway. Sometimes we have to be willing to get uncomfortable in order to graduate to a new level of comfort, and with relationships, it is difficult, but I love that you bring this up, because self-love includes what other people might label as selfish behavior. Self-love means you don't put yourself in jeopardy for the sake of another person. And this can get really sticky, because there could be points that are argued. Well, yes, there are always exceptions to every rule, but in general, a healthy relationship allows both people to flourish, both people to be well, to stay well. They're not extracting something from the other person. They're just both contributing. And, I'm sure people that have stayed home and got an extra dose of the people in their lives, there's people that are thinking, maybe this isn't, maybe I need to make a change, and maybe somebody does. Or maybe, I read a lot of recovery type literature. One of the suggestions I just saw recently was make a list of everything you're not getting in your relationship. Okay. So the person makes the list, and then, the other person says, great. Now evaluate yourself on all of those characteristics. What? You tricked me. Yeah, I'm not so good on this one. Okay, I could do better on this one. And the advice was, you master all those things, and then you decide if your relationship isn't worth saving. And the surprising thing is, when we start giving what it is we so much want, our world can shift. So anyway, I hope some of that made sense.
Yeah, totally. I want to talk to you a little bit about this notion of journaling. What's that look like in your case? Because and do we do it every day? Are we writing pages? Is it taking hours? What's your process for journaling?
I'm going to give you a sneak peek. I haven't published my blog. I have a newsletter that goes out every Tuesday, and I've written it, but I haven't published it yet. Hang on a second. Let me see if I can pull it up, because I'm giving a journaling exercise. So I'll give you a sneak peek. Let's see if I can find it. So many emails, so many emails. Well, I'm just going to try to remember. Oh, here it is. Okay. So I personally aspire to journal every day.
Mm-hmm.
I am a huge, huge fan of Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way.
Right.
I was a fan of that even before I was an artist. It is a way to recover the creativity that every human being has. It's a way to get more life out of your life. And have you ever heard of it? The
Yeah.
Artist's Way?
Yeah. The Artist's Way. Sure.
I mean, millions and millions of copies sold. I mean, it's a huge movement. So, if you haven't heard of it, you should look it up, or not you, but anybody listening. And she likes to have people write every day. She calls them morning pages, 3 pages of just brain dump. Don't censor it. It doesn't have to have punctuation. And I'll say that I've been a fan of journaling, since I was a teenager. So long before I found Artist's Way, but I like how she presents it to people, that it's just a brain dump, 3 pages. She really encourages longhand writing because there's something very therapeutic in actually handwriting something. But as I said in my blog that will come out tomorrow, and I'm taking a little bit of this out of context because I write a lot in metaphors. And so the metaphor that I'm using in my daily meditation tomorrow was about fast moving clouds and how quickly the sky shifted. And that's the encouragement for when we feel like things are never going to change in our life, but an entire sky can change in like 10 minutes. I mean, it was amazing that particular day. And so, I was suggesting to journal at least weekly, if there are problems going on in your life, and, so write everything you feel about it, and write whatever hopelessness or despair, or just write, write whatever you feel about it. And then in a week, read what you've written and decide, has it gotten worse? Write that. Has it gotten better? Write that. And then track it for a couple of weeks. And that's was the cool thing about the clouds. A lot of times we don't really notice how much clouds are moving because we don't have a frame of reference. We just see this huge expanse of sky and there's clouds up there. But in my particular walk that day, and that's where this meditation comes from, there was an isolated segment that I was seeing, and I was only seeing it every 10 minutes. And that frame of reference helped me, I guess, see that change was happening. And so using journaling once a week, or, more if you want, gives you kind of that container to look at it again in a week. Because if we don't journal day to day, we look at our problems, we feel our problems, it's like nothing's happening. But if we were to track it through journaling, 2 things are happening. It's getting better, it's getting worse. It might be staying the same, but usually it's one or the other. But all of that is fine because that's just part of the journey, whether it's getting better, it's getting worse. And, as I ended my daily meditation, the cycle of clouds, like I look outside today and I have got blue sky and 0 clouds. That is a guaranteed cloud cycle. We're going to have clouds, we're going to have storms, and then it's going to come back to clear skies, and sun. And that is the same way in our life. We're going to have clouds, we're going to have fluffy, pretty clouds, we're going to have storm clouds, but we're always going to come back to a place of beauty, of centeredness, of balance. And then the next cycle starts again, grateful for the good things because we don't know how long they're going to last. And I felt like I gave you a lot there.
You mentioned grateful for the good things. So we do face adversity. This life is not, a slam dunk every day. And your books and your work talks a lot about adversity. For you, Angela, what was the gift in your adversity? Like as you look back now, today? Yeah.
Oh, there's just been so many. I've navigated many traumatic situations, many life interruptus, as I like to call it. And each situation had a gift. So, the eating disorder helped put me on this path of recovery, and really all the gifts I could just cite out of that is learning to appreciate myself as a human being and not just this body. It put me on the 12-step path, which restored my spirituality. I mean, that's a huge gift that I don't know that I would have found any other way. My body breaking down, was just devastating. I mean, so much pain and years of numerous surgeries and physical therapy. I'm still in physical therapy, and it helps keep me, centered and stable. And I'll probably continue in that. But the gift out of that is it did totally transform my life and put me on this path now where, there's a few reasons that I know I should be dead. I shouldn't be here, but I'm here. And I know without a shadow of my doubt that what I'm here for is to bring hope to people, to point people along the way that are in this position of, there's just got to be more to life, but I'm just not quite sure what it is. And it's to be that encourager, to just encourage them to seek, whether it's, journaling or reading or meditating, taking a class, whatever it is, just to open themselves up to the possibility that there could be more to life, because there are so many people that think there's nothing more for me, maybe for you, but I don't see how I could possibly ever do anything different, or I wouldn't even know where to start. I mean, I've heard so many excuses, and I get that. I was there. So the gift, I guess, out of all of the adversity that I've walked through is the ability to be relatable to people. There's not too many people when I get done speaking and they come through the book line that can say, I've been through this. Then I can't say, I know, me too. Me too. My younger brother took his life August of 2016, and it was devastating. And I thought to myself, really, did I not have enough huge life adversity? And now I've already been in a position dealing with other people who have had to deal with suicide. And I couldn't have spoken to that from a personal basis any other way. Miscarriages. There's just, I could list so many things that and fertility struggles, and literally the list is long. And I've been through it, and I feel blessed to be able to understand at a level that a lot of people can't with suffering. I have another talk, suffering, or I say something in my talk, suffering is ordinary. So all of this, it was really easy to develop a victim mindset and to really think that I got a bad lot in life and I deserved, special treatment because of all the things that I've walked through. But all that did was separate me from my fellow man.
1, 2, 3.
Good timing.
Yeah. We talked about fertility. I played a doctor in a little skit on a speaking thing when I did Courage to Birth Dreams. That's a talk that I do. And so we actually did a little skit with that. Me delivering a baby, that'll throw my train of thought a little bit. But anyway, as far as adversity goes, I feel so grateful to be able to know firsthand, because like when I was young and getting through my eating disorder, I saw a fair amount of therapists. The ones that helped me the most were the ones who had struggled with some sort of addiction, compulsion, or eating disorder. They understood the insanity of it versus someone who was just trained in it but couldn't speak to it personally. And so, as far as the adversity, I'm on this amazing path to become the best human that I can be, and to bring as many people with me, and to help, as many other people find that thing for them, whatever it is for them. And yeah, it's so much more fulfilling than the life that I had before.
Yeah. Selling
drugs.
Yeah. to kind of mask the pain, not delve deep into the pain. You delved deep into the pain.
I did.
You have to go into the pain.
You have to go in it. It's the only way through it. It's the only way successfully through it. I have a son who's almost 24, and he'll have his share of stuff to work through. And I said, son, you either work through it, or you medicate it, or you run from it, you numb it. One of the two. You get to choose. And the numbing, medicating path, you have to run faster. You have to use more of whatever it is you're trying to anesthetize yourself with. It becomes an exhausting pattern or cycle. Better to go ahead and embrace it now and go through it and get all the lessons it's going to give you. You know, we don't learn when everything's great. It's when we're uncomfortable. That's, you know, I love the analogy of the silversmith. You know, when metal is in fire, that's when it's so malleable and becomes something beautiful.
Yeah. For someone watching or listening right now, how can they begin to reframe their pain, their challenges that they might be going through right now in order for them to see the gift? And what might be blocking them from achieving their heart's desire?
Well, that's a great question. The first step to me is openness. You know, so many times closed-mindedness is a defense mechanism that we have adopted so that we don't have to become vulnerable and then suffer disappointment. And so the first step to me is, well, even before openness, is awareness. You know, if something is not exactly, if there's just this gnawing feeling, you know, being aware of that and then being open to maybe there is a solution I haven't thought of yet. And then, you know, the first module that I do in my coaching program is having people identify all the negative software, all the negative tapes that are playing in their mind.
Mm-hmm.
We have taken a lifetime to develop those, and they are running constantly, whether we're aware of them or not. And I don't believe in just generic affirmations. I am good. I am kind. You know, our brains a lot of times don't want to believe that. I want to help people make it very, very specific. You know, it's kind of like the anti-venom. You know, you get a snake bite, the poison goes in you. You're going to need the very specific anti-venom for that snake bite, not just any snake anti-venom. And so I feel like the first thing someone has to do is look at all the negative tapes that are playing and recognize that is just software. It's not hardware. It's software that can be changed. It takes diligent effort. It takes recognizing what's playing, writing down the antidote for every single one of those, you know, coming up with the antidote for that, and then rehearsing those over and over. I read them. I have them recorded into my phone. I listen to them. Of me saying those things in present tense. One of the ones, you know, I feel constantly like I don't have enough time. So what's on the first list is, you know, there's just not enough time in the day. That becomes, I have all the time I need to do what must be done today. Or another version is, I have all the time I need to do what God wants me to do today. And that I can choose either one. There's not enough time in the day, or I have all the time I need. Oh my gosh, as soon as I say I have all the time I need to do what must be done today, my spirit listens. Our subconscious listens to everything we say. We can lie to ourselves, but if we say it with conviction, our soul is going to believe it. And so, you know, that's a new thing that I'm recognizing in myself is when I'm doing bad storytelling, why not tell myself good stories? You know, it feels so much better. I mean, they're both stories, so might as well choose good ones. So anyway, those are some of the approaches that I do immediately with people, because you can identify a new path, but you're going to sabotage yourself over and over again if you're still letting the old tapes play. You know, so it's kind of a package transformation, if you will. You've got to get new tapes playing in the mind before new things can be happening out here.
And it is constant daily work.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's almost minute by minute. Because something can come up and throw you off, right? And then you'll resort to the old line of thinking.
Yes, and we can be unhappy about those, or we can say, how am I going to pass that test if it comes today?
Right.
How do we know how effective our personal development has been until the test comes along?
Yeah.
That's when we know, you know, that's when we can measure, ooh, I did this part well, and I still need to work on this part.
I want to just talk about the book. What's an example of a good daily meditation?
Oh, goodness. There's 366 to choose from.
I know. So is there one that you like?
Oh, I joke all the time, because I still read it. It's, I forget which year, maybe we're in the 5th year of reading it. I love daily meditation books. I have a stack of them, and I try to limit myself to 3 or 4 a year, but I'll read the same ones over and over and over. I had a feeling you might ask that, and so I was looking for if there was a short one that I could read.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just kind of turned to this one. This is for May 3rd. You want me to read it?
Sure.
It's called Accept What's True Right Now. And then there's a quote, "For here we are not afraid to follow truth wherever it may lead." And that's Thomas Jefferson. A squirrel just appeared outside my window. He is scampering along a tree limb that hangs very close to my house. The movement caught the attention of Fancy, one of my cats. She is watching intently with curiosity, but also with the understanding she can't do anything right now other than watch. How interesting is that? So it's almost like she's in isolation. Mm-hmm. Fancy is able to accept her reality. She is inside, the squirrel is outside, and they are not meant to engage, at least not today. Fancy is content to be where she is and accept the momentary gift of entertainment and intrigue. Animals make it look so easy. I don't always embrace my circumstances with the same degree of humility and acceptance. I've spent hours, days, even months figuring out ways to achieve something that seems to elude me. The more I bump into brick walls now, the more I can recognize that an answer of no or not right now is ultimately protecting me from something and or guiding me to what's best in the long run. Either way, Fancy just showed me how much more peace I can have by accepting present day reality and enjoying all that I'm capable of enjoying in this very moment. Acceptance doesn't mean I stop taking action for dreams and desired outcomes, but it does mean I recognize what's true right now and accept the gifts today has to offer me.
You know what amazes me about you, and thank you for that. That was
yes.
And as I listen to that, I'm just in amazement with you. And the reason is, Angela, is that here you were, the driver personality, sales. And sales is almost counterintuitive to someone who's got some, emotional stuff going on because of the rejection and sometimes the pain in selling that we go through. But here you are, you've gone through your journey, the healing journey, the pain, the operations, but you started to say yes to life. And you started to also open up your creative side. Where does that, did you know that was always there, or did it just kind of flow once you went through the healing?
It is so funny that you asked that. I have people all the time just say, wow, you were, sales and all of that, and now all of a sudden it's art stuff. No, I had no idea. My mother was an artist, and she could draw. I can't draw. And so I never looked at myself as an artist. And again, I truly was all about making money. I didn't have any other aspirations. I have to say, you're showing my website right now. I look at that and I'm like, man, how do you do that?
I know.
I still see my art. Like, I don't know how that happened. And that's the really cool thing when you tap into your gifts. I really think God shows up and moves through you and creates through you in a way that you could never do on your own. And so even with this book, these were downloaded to me. The premise, I go on a walk and I get a download. I drive through a car wash and I get this spiritual enlightenment on the other side. And I'm thinking, I don't know if this happens to everybody. Maybe I'm supposed to write these down. It wasn't my idea. And I'm just kind of the vehicle. And so, when I look at those paintings, I'm kind of in awe myself. And I say that with all humility, because if spirit isn't moving through me, I can't create that. I have to just open myself up. I have to show up to a canvas, open the paints, get the tools out, but then be willing to, allow creativity to take over. And I hear so much of the time, oh, I don't have any creativity. Everybody was made to be creative, whether it's, cooking, baking, how they drive, how they dress, how they fix their hair. Everybody has creative, pieces in them. I don't know if the photography website will open. It's really old. I haven't updated it. and you have to have flash. Yep. See, there's the problem.
Yeah.
So it's probably not going to work. But anyway, I got so excited when you started showing me stuff. I forgot what your question was, but hopefully I sort of answered it.
I create a process, and like.
Oh, yes. So I just knew there was, as far as painting goes, there was something in me that always wanted to paint, but I squashed that notion because I didn't know how to paint. But I would say that we all have things inside us, maybe we want to dance, like I wanted to dance, or maybe gardening is really where we have that thing. There's things that each of us can do in a way that no one else can do. And we need collectively for each person to bring their goods. There's another daily meditation I have in here that I really feel like we all have this goodie jar. And our job is to go around and hand people, the goodies that can only be done in the way that we do them, but also to collect and to receive, so, David, what, you're offering. And it's just a huge gift exchange. And that probably sounds really Pollyanna-ish, but it's what I believe.
I think we're moving to that. I think, this decline in the economy and everything, like, I think we're moving to that. I think that's going to be the new operating system moving forward.
Well, whether it's a tangible, physical bartering, because I love bartering, but otherwise, just the gifts, whatever you have in you to give. You shared some stuff about your radio experience with me last week, and it kind of something caught in my spirit, and that is a clue. And so maybe that's something I need to pursue. And I think that we're given clues like that all the time. So when you're wondering, I just don't know what else I could do, but I just don't really love life. I'm not getting up with zeal. If you just acknowledging that you're wanting to receive some clues, the more we, speak that we want clues to that, the more they show up. It's amazing how that works.
Yeah, I feel pretty alive right now with doing these. And this is a pivot, right? This is a big pivot as a result of what we're going through collectively right now. But the other thing, it's funny, when I write, I find when I write, it just comes to me. Like I wrote an article yesterday morning. I write for a magazine, and I had no idea what I was going to write about. Like if you talk to me like Saturday, what are you going to write about? I don't know. I was just guided to write. I got up yesterday, Sunday, or it felt like Thursday, or maybe it was Wednesday. I joke. But I got up yesterday at around 6, and I'm going, what do you want, Spirit, what do you want me to up at 6 for? You're going to write. Come on, Sunday, give me a break. No, you're going to write. Okay, so I wrote my article, and I love it. And I just sent it off yesterday to the magazine, and they loved it too. So
it's awesome. That's that crack of the bat. You just know when you've hit it right. When you're walking, I've got another saying in here, the difference between walking in the flow, walking, with the flow versus against the flow. I mean, it's a night and day difference. And Julia Cameron has something in her book that she's quoting some guy, and I forget who it is, but, it said something about, I have to be, motivated to write. And I make sure every day at 9 a.m. I'm motivated. In other words, it is a discipline to show up and just trust it's going to come from somewhere. I mean, I don't know what my weekly meditation is going to be next week. I have a couple of ideas. When they come to me, I jot them down. But it's half the fun is just showing up and being open for whatever download you get.
Yeah, and say yes to life, right?
Yes.
Yeah. We're fresh out of time. My gosh, that went fast.
Yeah, I enjoyed speaking with you. We could talk. I had a feeling when we did our pre-chat that, oh goodness, we could talk and talk.
I know we could go on. So it's angelahowell.com. And how do we get you up to Toronto? Maybe when this is over, we'll get you up to Toronto. And it's ordinary life, extraordinary perspective. Coaching, training, you do art classes. There you are, all messy with art. Who'd have thunk, eh? Selling pharmaceuticals to doctors, that there was something more that was there for you.
And the really beautiful thing about that is, whether it's my story or whether it's somebody else's story, I'm no different than anybody else. I mean, you know, life happened and I got the chance. It's like we were talking about earlier, so many people have a chance now. This is a window to choose to listen to yourself and follow whatever gut prompting you might be getting. And I just want to say, it doesn't always mean it's a relationship change or a career change. It could just be putting more life in your life, like as a hobby. You know, it doesn't have to be a massive, complete overhaul. Your spirit might just want a little bit more life in your life.
Yeah. And one last question. Do you feel now you have to force it, or does it just come? You know, in sales, you have to force, you got to make those calls. You got to, you know, I do like, you know, 5 to 10 cold calls a day too. So do you feel like now it just comes easily?
You know, it's funny. Another thing that I battle is this resistance to let myself be all that I'm created to be. And I'm still, you know, working through that. So, you know, like what I just quoted about the writer who said, you know, I have to be motivated to write, and I make sure that I'm motivated every day at 9 a.m. I think a part of us does have to be willing to just show up, let the feelings follow my actions instead of letting my actions follow my feelings. Because if I were always just to go by how I feel,
yeah,
a lot of times I just want to do tangible things that I know how they're going to work out. And that's staying in my left brain. Getting in my right brain can be uncomfortable. So going to approach a blank canvas and standing there, if I want to, I can let that intimidate me. And sometimes I just have to do it anyway and get the paint out, put the water in the cups, and get ready, suit up, show up. Yeah. So I can't say that it just, you know, creativity just flows all the time, you know, you know, I put the weekly meditation out. If I didn't have that little bit of structure and accountability, I may not write weekly, as you know, and share weekly. I have to show up. I have to be willing to show up for it to happen.
Yeah, you're right. And
anyway, I want to throw in one thing. So you can see on the website, get your free copy of 10 Secrets to Finding the Gift. If you download that and sign up for it does two things. It gives you the free copy of that ebook. Oh, wow. And then it also signs you up for my weekly meditations. They come out every Tuesday morning, really early. So whatever time change you're on, that or time.
Right here, get in touch kind of thing?
What's that?
Right here, or download now?
Oh yeah, download now. Yeah, it's all over. The pop-up thing will pop up. It's at the bottom. I mean, you know, one of those windows will pop up if people go to the website. So when you get the free copy of 10 Secrets to Finding the Gift, you're also signing up for my weekly meditation. Okay. And of course, you can unsubscribe at any time if you find that, you know, email's too full and you just wanted the free gift. That's fine too.
I think I sent you an e-copy of my book, right?
You did, yes. I haven't got a chance to look over that. It was just a couple days ago, but
it's called The Weekly 3. So like you, I was writing every week, Saturday morning. I would just chill out, have my coffee, you know, and I would write. And it was 3 weekly lessons for your life or business. And nice. It came, and again, I didn't have I had a bit of a notion, but I just kind of let it flow. So awesome. It's really, I think we got to really work on getting into that place, but then we have to get out of our way, but we also have to show up and do the work too.
Exactly. Yes. It's a nice balance.
It is. It really is. And life's, to me, about balance. A good life is when you're firing on all cylinders. Angela, thank you for this.
Oh, thank you, David. I'm so glad you found me.
I'm glad I found you too. I hope we get to work together more and deepen our connection. And it's angelahowell.com, right? For those, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Thank you everybody for watching, listening today. I hope you got something out of it. And if you like, give me a thumbs up or an emoji or whatever, or comment, and have a really great day today.